Brandon Graham's activation isn't the only big news of the week, as even more weapons for both the Eagles and Chiefs are also gearing up for a Super Bowl return. Plus, why Kelce's latest decision along their offensive line could be the best thing to happen to Jalen Carter all week. Oh, and why one insider thinks Kellen is having some second thoughts about the Saints. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. The Birds and Chiefs have had some much less publicized changes that could help shift Super Bowl 59 into either team's favor, especially depending on the key decisions made by both head coaches. First, though, how about the latest from the Birds' practices, once again at Lincoln Financial Field on Thursday and Friday? The bad news is Philadelphia had a bunch of starters out, but the good news is most of them were out for rest and nothing serious. Although Philadelphia did confirm no Landon Dickerson or Cam Jurgens at least at practice this week, which again was pretty expected, especially with the extra week off and the severity of both players' injuries. I do expect next week, though, to see both Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson practice. The question is, in a limited capacity, in a full capacity, they've said they're going to play, but we need to see them on the practice field sooner rather than later. Speaking of practices, final schedule for the weekend before going to New Orleans, one more practice on Saturday afternoon in South Philadelphia. Then the Eagles get on a plane and fly to New Orleans, where they'll spend the next week of practices at the New Orleans Saints facility. Chiefs likewise flying on Sunday, and they'll practice at Tulane's facilities over the course of the Super Bowl week. Of course, the big storyline the past couple of days has been the activation of Brandon Graham to the 21-day practice window and officially seeing him out there at practice on both Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Now, his first practice back was very limited. He did have pads on, and obviously you see here a massive brace, but only partook in one-on-one individual drills. On Friday, he was limited, but he did do a team drill-focused practice that even saw BG not only use his injured tricep, but according to the man himself, felt zero pain when striking with that same arm.
I'm all smiles right now, man. Just enjoying, just the whole ride. Just been rehabbing, getting to this moment. Trying to keep everything in, just trying to make sure that I just, do whatever I can for the team. And, we just been pushing, trying to get back, and everything went good so far. I mean, today I struck a little bit, and I didn't feel anything, so I'm not really worried about it. But we is gonna ramp it up a little more every day, and I'm just happy that I ain't out of shape. That's the biggest thing, because it's been a little while, but it was cool to kind of get individual. And then tomorrow I'll probably get some team reps. And it was good, but we just taking it one day at a time. Just trying to go out there and help the team, because we're trying to go win this game.
It's very clear to me BG is going to be activated for the Super Bowl, and he is going to be out there and play. And that naturally means he will take snaps away from someone on the defensive line. But it likely won't be Nolan Smith or Jalix Hunt, as a lot of Bird fans are worried about. Instead, I expect to see Bryce Huff, who played 15% or 12 snaps on the defense versus the Commanders, have his reps taken away and given over to BG. That way you essentially upgrade the defensive line, because Huff has been virtually non-existent the past few weeks, but you don't take away any sort of snaps from the red-hot young starters on the outside. Oh, and as far as BG's impact, well, that remains to be seen. I want to see him actually participate fully in practices next week, but his teammates are already saying the energy he's brought in the past couple of days, actually being on the field, is second to none.
He brings a lot of energy, man. He's one of those guys that you love going to war with. So excited, to see his window open, and we'll see what happens with the game. But I know he's going to give us everything we got.
Yeah, I'm excited for him. I knew there was a chance after talking to him last week that if we won, he's going to be able to play. So, man, we're really excited to have him back, and we want to go get this one for him.
Now, there was another Eagle who returned to practice earlier this week, and that was Britton Covey, who, of course, was added to the 21-day practice window last week, but ended up not being activated or elevated for the Commanders game on Sunday. Covey so far has remained limited in practice, as we would expect, still coming off of, obviously, IR, but his chances to get the nod and elevated for Super Bowl 59 seem to be pretty high, which, as mentioned last week, will give Philadelphia some punt return explosiveness and another receiving threat if needed late in this football game. And it's kind of funny, flying over to the Chiefs facility, they're having a very similar situation with wide receiver Sky Moore, who's been out with an abdomen injury, but was activated last week and was limited in practice yesterday. Moore's been kind of disappointing following being a Super Bowl 57 hero for KC, but he is gearing up for a return. He does have abilities in both special teams and at the wide receiver position, and you could see both Moore and Covey be activated and playing in Super Bowl 59. Also spotted playing at practice this week was former Eagles tight end Brent Selleck, who, if you remember, won a Super Bowl in 2017 with Philadelphia before retiring the following year. Now, why is Selleck actually running routes at Eagles practice, you ask? Well, he's trying to mimic Travis Kelce, whose 8 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown played a massive factor in the Birds' loss in Super Bowl 57. Now, Selleck and Kelce might be 5 years apart in terms of age, but they are virtually the same height. And while one is a future Hall of Famer, both had very similar playing styles during their careers and similar movement on the field. Now, it's not what I would have guessed as a possible practice solution to try to figure out the Kelce problem, but at this point, I'll take anything to help go ahead and slow down the Chiefs' top weapon.
They're both so dynamic in the way that they play football, and it's kind of a not what you're typically used to in Mahomes gets out of the pocket looking for that second play, and usually receivers run the scramble drill one way, and they kind of do it a whole different way. So it's really focusing on that plaster mentality, just man him up and track him everywhere he goes. But those two have a really good connection, and I feel like they play ball the right way.
Now, I think the biggest concern for Chiefs fans heading into a Super Bowl rematch with the Philadelphia Eagles, once that became official last week against the Commanders, is of course blocking and defending against Jalen Carter. The potential of having to block the Birds' all-pro defensive tackle with their own guard Mike Caliendo. A few months back, the Chiefs moved all-world guard Joe Thuney out to left tackle to try to help solidify Patrick Mahomes' pass protection as it was really struggling early on this season. And it definitely worked, as Thuney has been fantastic and one of the key reasons why Mahomes and the Chiefs offense have seen a mega resurgence heading into the postseason. But with Thuney going from guard to tackle, that means somebody had to fill a spot. Enter Mike Caliendo, who allowed 4 pressures against the Texans, 2 against the Bills, and 1 sack. And everyone in Kansas City was waiting to hear what Andy Reid would say to a question the other day, asking, would you go ahead and move Thuney back to the guard spot in order to go ahead and match up better against Jalen Carter? And it sounds like that's probably not going to be the case, as Andy Reid confirmed they're going to stick with their continued plan of keeping Thuney at left tackle, which means Jalen Carter versus Mike Caliendo could be a very serious matchup that happens time and time again 2 Sundays from now in Super Bowl 59. Now, it is worth noting that Jalen Carter normally lines up against right guards. He's done that 96% of the time this season, but don't tell me Vic Fangio doesn't understand the potential matchup nightmare Carter could be against Caliendo and might switch some things around for the Super Bowl and try and throw the Chiefs off balance. At this point in the postseason, we know the Birds' edge rushers, especially Nolan Smith, are absolutely balling out, but Carter's impact on the inside cannot be overlooked in this matchup. If Thuney's not going to move back to guard, even if they don't want to go Carter 1v1 against Caliendo every single snap, I think Vic Fangio is going to do whatever he can to create additional one-on-ones for guys like Milton Williams and Moro Jomo. And what's the secret to beating Patrick Mahomes? Getting him on the ground. And whether it's Jalen Carter or Nolan Smith or Josh Sweat or Jalen Hunt, anybody on the Eagle defensive line, we saw what happened in Super Bowl 57. If you can't get him on the ground, if you can't sack Patrick Mahomes, it could be a long day for even the best of defenses. But if they can get pressure on number 15, it could be a long day for a Chiefs offense that has struggled to move the football at times, even after making the whole offensive line reshuffling a couple of months ago. Now, speaking of reshuffling, and a little update on Kellen Moore and his current head coaching situation with the New Orleans Saints came from the Athletics' Diana Rossini yesterday, who poured a little bit of water, I might say, on the whole Moore as a guaranteed head coaching hiring by the Saints after the Super Bowl.
There was a little scuttlebutt about whether or not, if Kellen would want this job. And it's due to the fact that they don't have a quarterback already there in place. That was concerning. But that being said, I do think he's come around on it from what I was hearing of just, all right, maybe this is the right spot for me. So
now, obviously, Diana Rossini still said at the end of that clip, but I still think he's going to be the Saints head coach, so take this all with a massive grain of salt. We have not heard, though, the hesitation, at least the report here saying Kellen Moore is a little bit worried about the current situation at quarterback with the Saints, and that could be very good news for Eagle fans. If you've watched the Saints the past couple of years, Derek Carr, very clearly a complete shell of himself, but still has 2 years left on a $150 million deal in New Orleans. Getting rid of him is going to be very hard this season, and if Kellen Moore doesn't want to go through a limbo year in 2025 with Carr, only have to restart everything in 2026, there could be a scenario where after the Super Bowl he goes, you know what, I'm going to run it back one more year with Philadelphia and try and see what the new pool of openings could be in 2026. The problem with all of this, though, is shortly after Rossini's report on potential concerns with the Saints, Tom Pelissero sent out this tweet saying, quote, #Saints plan to meet again with Eagles offensive coordinator Kellen Moore after the Super Bowl. A strong sign he's the top candidate for the team's head coaching job, sources tell the insiders. Under NFL rules, the sides can't speak again until after the game, which is February 9th in New Orleans. Now, I'm no expert in hiring NFL head coaches, but this sounds to me like Kellen Moore is going to be the Saints guy, and it's only a matter of time until it's quote-unquote official after the Super Bowl. I'm thinking 2 weeks from now, it'll be Frank Reich, it'll be Bobby Slowick, it'll be a number of new names being talked about as possible offensive coordinator hires for Philadelphia. Also, in my previous show, I said if that show gets 70,000 views, I'll give away another NFC title game towel, and it just got that many views. And so I picked a random subscriber who commented on that video, which was Mark Boone3779 to win the towel. Mark, if you want it, go down to my description box, email, prove it's you. All the details are down there. I'll get this shipped out. I did ship out the Smitty football and the towel yesterday, so those 2 winners will be getting them soon. Now, I don't know about you guys, but my confidence in Philadelphia heading into next week's Super Bowl so far has been sky high. And apparently it's not just me. The comments during our live show, myself, Josh Davis, were all saying Birds by a lot, and we broke it down earlier this week, and I think the confidence overall in Philadelphia right now is as high as it can be. I think Philadelphia is in a pretty good spot.
Not a bad spot. Yeah, I mean, we're in the Super Bowl. You like that just to begin with. I don't know. Let's just be honest, right? Because we still had some positivity. We still had some optimism, but there were still going into the bye week, like, man, I don't know. Like, there's just some concerns here. Can they turn a corner? Now, it wasn't because we got a lot of these comments, right? And some of them are trolls. We understand that. We got a lot of comments being like, I'm done. Like, I'll see you guys next year. Like, I understand. There's some frustrations early, but it just goes to show the difference that it can be with the coaching combined with the players and the execution, right? Because the offense was definitely unlocked. And I'll just say that too. Like, there's an element to it. I love doing the game streams. I think it's a blast. So definitely missed that. But the biggest thing for me, I mean, aside from just the hoopla and like partying and celebrating everything like that, being in person, but the biggest element of watching the game that's the best, I guess, advantage or takeaway that we say all the time is when Jalen drops back to pass, we can't see where he's looking at when we're doing the game streams. Like, you just see the television view, right? So it's like, oh, come on, Jalen, like, what are you doing? Then you go back and watch the film and you say, oh, well, he didn't have routes designed to throw to. Like, where is the football supposed to go? The difference is being there at that game, and you saw it was a night and day difference. But my gosh, Kellen Moore was in his bag with, like, I think we both looked at each other whenever Dallas Goedert got a sweep. It's like, what is that? When have we seen Dallas Goedert get a carry? You get multiple carries in a game. And so Kellen Moore, maybe he took the slight of the Cowboys job, not getting the Cowboys job, saying, all right, you know what? I'm going to show something. Perhaps there's been things thrown out there of that way. He's still the front runner, according to reports, for New Orleans, although it doesn't appear like there's many candidates out there to compete with. But still, you know, where he goes with that, it's like, man, that was the offense that you've been waiting for to see for a couple weeks. And was it like, okay, you play conservative because of the weather, knowing you don't necessarily have to show everything versus those teams, or Jalen coming off the concussions, you want to keep it pretty basic, don't do too much. But whatever it was, I mean, if the Eagles go into the Super Bowl and they play that way on the offensive side of the football, like you mentioned, Thomas, the defense, I know it's Patrick Mahomes. I know there's elements that we saw, even with Jaden Daniels, pick apart, especially Zach Ertz, because he had, 11, 12 catches, over 100 yards.
Pretty good.
Just doing a pretty good game. But even with that, it's like there is a bigger confidence level going into it this year than it was in 2022, which was still hype, and you're right there in the game. You have great opportunity, but it's just a different story for the team. So I think everybody's feeling similar, or the vast majority is. We'll just say that.
Whatever Kellen Moore did is exactly what Philadelphia needs to do versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They never took their foot off the gas, basically until they brought Kenny Pickett in, and they still scored with Will Shipley. 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. When you play Patrick Mahomes, there are a lot of teams that try to not make a mistake. Happened with Brady all the time too, especially in the postseason. It's like, okay, let's play a little conservative, play some good defense, and let's try and win this 21-17 over Tom Brady. And, of course, in the fourth quarter in a one-score game, Tom Brady was very hard to beat. The same goes for Patrick Mahomes. And really, I liked Washington's plan on the opening drive against Philadelphia, where they went for a fourth down, and then they decided not to, which was strange. I think Philadelphia has to be aggressive, and I think they need to try and score 55 points. Now, that's not saying they need to score 55 points, but their idea and their mindset is we need to be up double digits in the second half, double digits in the third quarter, double digits in the fourth quarter, because we've seen what Patrick Mahomes can do. And if you make it to where even the greatness of Patrick Mahomes cannot come back from a 17-point lead with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, that's how Philadelphia is going to go ahead and win this one. And this is exactly the offense that we know Philadelphia is capable of. And you mentioned maybe, Hurts coming off the concussion, the knee issue, a little weather in the Rams game. If that's the offense we get versus, the Steve Spagnuolo defense, Philadelphia matches up very well with the Steve Spagnuolo defense, by the way. They can score 30 on him. If they score 30 on him, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is scoring 30 on this Eagle defense. They're that good. So give me some more, whatever Kellen Moore was cooking. Maybe he'll get the Saint job. Maybe he won't. We can talk about that. But my hope is you get exactly the same as this past week. And if you do, Philadelphia's going to win. The whole thing on Jalen Hurts, Josh, it's very simple. The problem is that the upper echelon of quarterbacks in the NFL, the Patrick Mahomes and the Josh Allens, are so darn incredible that we want all of our quarterbacks to be like that, right? And the problem is there's only two of them. Even Lamar Jackson, who's great during the regular season, is just shelved himself in the postseason. And then you have Jalen Hurts, who has all of these wins and all of this success, but he's not throwing for 350 yards a game like Josh Allen is. And so the national media and a lot of Eagle fans just can't come to grips with Jalen Hurts being like an elite quarterback. But when you actually go ahead and figure it all out, the Eagles have an elite front office, a very good head coach, elite coordinators, an elite team around Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts is one of the hardest workers in the building. And so you're getting somebody who's putting all the work in, and he might not be a number 1 or number 2 quarterback in the league, but if you put the number 7 quarterback in the league on this roster, this is the result. And I think the chip on Jalen's shoulder, dating back to his time at Alabama, plays a massive role in his success, especially like this season. People have been doubting him his entire career, and every time he turns on ESPN, they're saying, oh, can they actually win with Jalen Hurts?
Yep.
Yet all he's done has been like the most winningest quarterback in the NFL, especially in the postseason, besides Patrick Mahomes. Like, this is the only guy who's doing it. Lamar can't get to an NFC title game. Josh Allen can't win, or an AFC title game. Josh Allen can't win an AFC title game. No one else can even get close, and yet we're still having conversations about, I don't know, he's good. He's good enough. He is fantastic, and I really think that this Super Bowl is going to be the cementing moment in Jalen Hurts' career. Because if he would have won it in Super Bowl 57, fully cemented elite quarterback, if he has a MVP performance in a loss and an MVP performance in a win on his resume at 25, 26 years old, what more do you want? Honestly, what more do you want?
Nothing. That does it all. And I wonder, because he did have the lock screen on for forever, right? The motivation of the confetti falling, him walking off the field. So it stays with him. I just love that Jalen does prove the haters wrong. And you see all the switch ups from Acho and Orlovsky and forget one other one, but just all the comments of they criticize and then they come back and they're like, oh, Jalen Hurts did the exact same. Chase Daniel, obviously the biggest one. Jalen Hurts doing exactly what he needs to, and all this. It's like, where was that? Where was that 2 weeks ago? Where was that earlier in the season? It's like Jalen can, but he hasn't been required to do that all the time. But whenever you ask him, it's like, all right, hey, you open up the offense. We saw it, made a big difference. And there you go. Lazarus with the 20 bomb said, I had the greatest birthday present watching the Eagles put belt to booty on the Commanders. And for once, I'm not anxious. I expect this to be a whopping 38-24. Is it any concerns looking towards the Super Bowl? And then also says, love your show. Thank you for that.
Yes. But I really feel like it's going to go very similarly to how Super Bowl 57 did, because the Chiefs are kind of a similar football team as you overall look at it. They're still great. But the Eagles are so much better equipped. We had this debate halfway through the season. I remember doing it on, I think I went on Jacob Sports' show. I was talking to my friends about it, but it was like, is it better than the 2022 team? And they were, well, that team had 70 sacks, and
Right.
This secondary makes a massive difference. Zach Bond makes a massive, massive difference. And Saquon Barkley is going to be a real problem. If A.J. Brown can cook Trent McDuffie a couple times in one-on-one and make Steve Spagnuolo have to go a little bit of help to 11 side, it's going to be a wrap on offense. And even then, we saw, they basically manned up on A.J. Brown the entire game and just let him beat you during the NFC title game, and Saquon still went nuts. So I think they're positioned well. That doesn't mean guaranteeing the Philadelphia Eagles are going to win, although I'm obviously going to pick them to win. They can still lose this game. But this is a much better equipped team to match up against what Patrick Mahomes, Steve Spagnuolo, and Andy Reid want to do on offense and defense.
Yep, without a doubt. Totally agree. It's a more balanced team. It's a better defense. It's
much better
defense.
It's
a unit that there was good chemistry. It's not like there was bad chemistry, but this unit has better and I don't know, just the chemistry, the vibes, the selflessness. Again, it's not like it was selfish players in 2022, but it's not to the same level of selflessness that we're seeing. I mean, you see stuff like what Saquon's doing and how excited they get for Will Shipley to score a touchdown. Not that wouldn't have happened for 22, but when your best player is taking a stance like Saquon's been doing, and Jalen does it as well, AJ does it well, but when your best player like Saquon does that, it just is night and day difference. And the thing that I love seeing was the NFL Films mic'd up clip of Saquon going over to Cam Jurgens when he's battling through, back spasms and everything.
He was
else.
A monster.
And he's like, hey, here you go. And gives him knuckles. He's like, no, I'm serious. I mean it. Like, I appreciate you, bro. Like, it's just the little things, but that all adds up. And Mekhi Becton's sitting right there. He sees that. He leans over to Cam. He's like, it's just kind of this whole feel of everyone is sacrificing the individual for the betterment of the team, and you're seeing it play out. I mean, that's why they're here in the Super Bowl. So one more, not get ahead of ourselves. One more. But they can do it. Mario with a 5 says, how much do you guys believe in, here we go. How much do you believe in superstitions regarding the Super Bowl? A lot of things are pointing against us, like that Kirk Cousins curse. Oh boy.
I haven't seen these. What are they? I haven't seen these.
I've seen a couple of the superstitions, but people need to help us out. I know they've probably already been debating.
What's the Kirk Cousins?
I'm getting to these super chats late. Yeah. What is the Kirk Cousins? I have not seen the Kirk Cousins curse. So
I don't know what that is.
Refresh our memory, Mario. We appreciate that.
Cousins curse.
Yeah, you might be able. I guess it might pop up.
Oh yeah, I'm googling how the Kirk Cousins curse could decide the Super Bowl.
Oh boy.
The Kirk Cousins curse. No team has ever lost to Kirk Cousins during the regular season and gone on to win the Super Bowl. Oh, wow, that's a thing, huh?
How
the Kirk Cousins curse? Wow, and it dates back 2016. Packers lose to Cousins, destroying the NFC Championship game. 2017 Rams win the West but lose to Cousins. They lose in the wild card round. 18, Eagles lose to Cousins, lose the divisional round. 19, Eagles lose to Cousins, lose the Seahawks. 2020, Packers lose. Wow, it's like all the way back to 2016. 2023, Cousins lose, or 49ers lose to Cousins and the Vikings in week 7. They lose the Super Bowl. Huh. Okay, well, I guess it's all over. We're going to lose because we lost to Kirk Cousins in week 2.
Oh no, we shouldn't even show up then.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Well, then I guess this will go back to the other thing we were talking about is if that is legit, right? If you buy into that, if you believe it, which I don't.
Sure.
I do. We buy into a little bit of superstitions because we wore the same jerseys that we wore the first like.
That's different than the Kirk Cousins curse.
But yes, it's different than those others. So I will be wearing the proper attire that I need to.
I will be as well.
Actually, I will not. I'm going to put this out there. Not going to wear the AJ Brown jersey because we lost in 22. For the Super Bowl. It worked for the NFC Championship.
I wonder what I was wearing.
But
I wonder what I was
do you
wearing.
recall what you were wearing?
I can look it up. I did a video that night.
Okay.
So
just don't wear that.
I won't wear that.
Wear something different.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
I'm probably going to go with the Nolan jersey. I feel like I have to.
Okay.
But yeah, it just won't be the AJ Brown jersey. So that's what we'll go with.
Okay.
What we said earlier, though, again, if you buy into that, then the other curse would be that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles weren't going to show up to this Super Bowl, right? Because no quarterback has done it. So he broke that one.
Right. That's a good point.
I mean, there's so many. The NFL's been around for so long, and there's been so many games played that you could like nitpick this thing to death and probably have 10 arguments on both sides. Like, oh, the Eagles should win because of this. Oh, the Chiefs shouldn't win because of this. That's why they play the game. But I don't buy into it to the extreme like that.
Of course, the next show I do will be actually starting Super Bowl week. Plenty of media things going on. It's going to be a crazy next couple of days. Make sure to go ahead and subscribe. Approaching 84,000 subs. And of course, the Super Bowl live stream happening on Sunday, February 9th. Be sure to go ahead and stay tuned for that. I'm Thomas Mott, getting pumped for Super Bowl week. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.